So my name is Kaufman. I live in Israel. I'm working for Next Insurance. It's a digital insurance technology startup. Our client sits in the US. Beside it, I like to speak and share my experience and knowledge with others. And that's what I do for the past 10 years or more. And if you want to learn more about me, again, you can visit Nir.live, you can visit my LinkedIn profile, and I'll be more than happy to keep answering questions if you got resources, even after we're done with this talk. So before we get to the technical part, another request for you guys. I'm gonna open the chat, all right? Got it. So, you know what? Even before I share my screen, first of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me to your community.
Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, of course, it's always a great opportunity to contribute to communities around the world. Actually, I've been. You're in Romania, yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet you guys in person for 2 times in a conference called JS Heroes. I don't know if you've been there. It was a while before COVID. But if there is a conference, another conference, yeah, I will try to do my best and come in person and meet you all.
JS Heroes, they're our friends. They are organizing in Cluj. We are also organizing in Cluj, but we have different dates. So usually.
Cool. So nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. So if everything goes wrong, if you can't hear me or something goes wrong with the screen, just let me know. And I would start. So quick introduction. I don't like to use slides too much. So I just share my very, very simple and humble website called Nir.live. After this talk, if you want to keep in touch or look for more resources, you can find my YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever, and you can find more resources, code examples, and more important, to keep in touch. So my name is Nir Kaufman. I live in Israel. I'm working for Next Insurance. It's a digital insurance technology startup. Our client sits in the US. Beside it, I like to speak and share my experience and knowledge with others. And that's what I do for the past 10 years or more. And if you want to learn more about me, again, you can visit Nir.live, you can visit my LinkedIn profile, and I'll be more than happy to keep answering questions if you got resources, even after we're done with this talk. So before we get to the technical part, another request for you guys. I'm gonna open the chat. I want to see the chat. Where is it? I lost it. I lost the Zoom chat. Oh, find it. If you got any questions during the session, and if you see something and you really want to write something, I've got the chat in front of my eyes, and I will be able to answer you or just say something about it. So use the chat if you want to the Zoom chat if you like to share something with me during the talk. All right. So we are going to talk about Angular, and more specifically, we're going to talk about Angular DOM manipulation, and a lot of time when you say DOM manipulation in Angular, people get very, very scared, because the first best practice that you learn when you learn how to use Angular is never touch the DOM directly. The DOM is out of reach. You're working with a framework. If you want to build dynamic UI, if you want to manipulate something, you should use the API that Angular provides you. And generally speaking, true. But hopefully today I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you something that I think, again, from my experience, not a lot of Angular developer aware, and hopefully change your mind. So you do see here slides in front of your face, because this is like part of a content from a workshop, and all the materials, the full workshop is available for free online and YouTube, so you can look for it. And I put it in front of you because I might use some slides, but no worries. Most of the time, most of the session, we're going to look at this code. What you're seeing right here is just a simple Angular application I created just a minute before we started. Very, very clean. There's not any extra libraries. Minimal project, no testing, inline templates, you name it. And the first thing that I would like to talk about is this part right here. This is the Angular template. Now, a lot of times when you ask an Angular developer, and when we talk among us about Angular, we call this chunk HTML. And we call this code HTML because, well, it looks like HTML, unless using some exotic directives. You know, when we start using Angular syntax, it's not exactly HTML, but again, it is HTML. It looks like HTML. We can actually take this code, and as we all know, we can create a template file, which is an HTML file, and move the template to a .html file. And the first thing that I love to teach new Angular developers, but even the experienced one sometimes get surprised, is that I believe it's very, very important as a foundation to remember that in Angular, this HTML never reached the browser. Never, ever reached the browser. If you had the opportunity to work with previous version of Angular, like AngularJS or any other frameworks, back then, this template, this code, this markup was provided as is to the browser render it, create a DOM out of it, and the framework hook up in specific places to be able to update it. In Angular, this is just a string, which again compiles to the rules of HTML, but got some extra special syntax like we all know. And this string get compiled by Angular, by Angular Ivy compiler. And then this string become JavaScript code. And this JavaScript code is executed against the browser and create the DOM. And why am I talking so much about the fact that there is no HTML in Angular? Because once you understand that there is no HTML in Angular, the next thing that I'm going to talk about might be a little bit more clear. Because if there is no HTML in Angular, if this HTML never reached the browser, how Angular actually works under the hood? So let's look at a specific slide. Let's look at this one. I'm skipping some slides, which I think it's not very important for this talk anyway. And I would like to talk about Angular components. To be more specific, you know what? Let's do something which is not that common. Let's do this. Let's implement the after view init lifecycle method. And let's do something which doesn't make too much sense. We're gonna log this. Let's log the instance of the component that we just created and see what we get in the console. It's always a good idea to explore deeply some things, but let's see what we get here. So if I log the app component instance, I will, well, technically, I will see a simple JavaScript object, which got one property called title, which is, again, exactly what I see here. And then I see a property called ngContexts, which is populated and created by the Angular IV compiler considering this template. Extra metadata. Technically speaking, all of this, definition, configuration, everything we put inside the object that we provide to the component decorator is being part of this ng context. Let's get this one. And when you explore this extra property on component instance, you will see something interesting. First of all, there's a strange list of, it's like a number, like a data structure, which is not very clear. What is it? Is it an array? Is it something else? What's going on here? Why there are numbers? And what are these numbers actually means? So what you see right here is the data structure that Angular created, which Angular calls a view. It's basically a data structures that contains a lot of information about what we want to build, but most importantly, and for this talk specifically, I would like you to notice few things. The capital letter L and the capital letter T. So right here you see a T view. And up here you see an L root view. And these letters, they've got meanings. It's not just T and L. What is it? And why do we care about it? So what's going on is this. When we build a component, when we define the component class and define a template to this component class, Ivy doing the next step. He will take our component and our template. It will consider it as a template view, and then he will create an instance out of it. In the Angular language, in the Ivy language, it's called an L view, the logical view. So basically what we get after compilation from this code, from this object plus this template, is a data structure that Angular created, which contains template view, how we defined our template, and the logical view, how logically the element should be ordered in a hierarchy. In this step, there is no DOM. That's the reason that when I logged this, I implemented a lifecycle method called after view initialize. In this point in time, there is no DOM yet. There is a third tree. The result of the template view plus the logical view will result in a renderer view, which is the DOM. So what am I trying to say? Again, a lot of deep technical data, but what's the point? Why it is so important to understand that there is a logical view that Angular manage, and there is the DOM. And the thing is that they are not, they've got, let's say, they've got a very special relationship between them. To understand it a little bit more, let's create another Angular component. I want to show you something. So I'm going to create an Angular component. I'm using WebStorm right away. I'm going to call this component child component. And then we're going to do something interesting. Inside the child component, let me make it larger. Just a second. There's zoom all around me. All right. Inside the child component, I'm gonna implement a lifecycle hook called do check. Let me just connect my laptop to the power. And then I'm gonna use this do check. And I'm gonna do a console log saying child component checked. What am I doing? I wanna know every time the change detection algorithm is gonna check this component for changes. I wanna know. So I console log child component checked, and every time it's gonna be a change detection cycle, and it's going to check my component, we're gonna get this console. Hopefully that is clear enough. Let's use it. So back to my app component. I'm gonna use my app child component. We're gonna go back to the browser, and you can see right here, child component checked, which is kind of obvious because we just refreshed the page, we reloaded Angular, there is the app component, the child component, and we already know that under the hood, behind the scenes, Angular created a logical view. Maybe we don't really know what it is yet, but we do know that a structure was created, an object was created, and this object, I can tell you right away, is defined the relationship between this object, the app child, and the app root. Again, what does it mean? And why do we care about it? So let's try to do something interesting. First of all, I'm gonna create a button. And for this button, I'm gonna bind some method to the click event. And this method is not gonna do anything, nothing. I can take this away, all right? There is an empty method called no. Let's fix this code, click. I'm gonna click this button. And the next thing that's gonna happen is that Angular change detection is gonna trigger, because Angular change detection is triggered by any async events that happen in the DOM. Even if the button doesn't do anything, even if there is no data binding anywhere, this is how Angular works. There was an async event, Zone.js catched this event and trigger Angular. So now what I want to see every time I'm clicking, I can see the child component checked. Again, it was expected. This is how I want Angular to work. Every time there is an async event, go ahead, check the app component. Actually, we can implement a do check on our app component as well, and just log something like app component checked. So you see app component checked, child component check, app component check, child component check. In development mode, if you don't know it yet, Angular runs change detection always twice. And now when I click the button, the app component check, the child component check. Let me I want to check the chat to see if you got any questions and if someone wrote something. All right. Let's move forward. Now I've got a question for you. Or at least I would like you to think about something. What's going to happen if, let's take this app child, let's give it an ID. Let's give this ID, let's call it BTN. And now, after my view was initialized, I want to do something like this. I want to come here and use vanilla JavaScript, document get element by ID, use this ID, BTN, and then remove this element. What do you want from me? Objects might be null. You're right. So what's going to happen right now? This component going to render, which means that Angular going to build this object that we know it's called view. And after this view was initialized, I'm going to use vanilla JavaScript and remove the button. So actually, it's not the button, it's the child component. Let's fix the name, right? After the view is initialized, I'm going to remove the child component. So if we check the elements right now, there is no child component. There is nothing. The DOM is technically empty. But if you look carefully, if you already seen it, when I click the button, the child component is still being checked. All right? What's going on here? Why the child component still being checked? I mean, I completely remove it from the template. I manipulated the DOM. I destroyed the DOM element, but it's still alive. And actually what you see right here, that's the reason that manipulating the DOM considered to be a bad practice in Angular. We're gonna check manipulation the right way, but this is a very important exercise. Now someone wrote in the chat, because there is no virtual DOM in Angular. Well, technically speaking, there is a virtual DOM in Angular. And because there is a virtual DOM in Angular, this example actually works the way it works. Let me explain. Let's go back to this slide. I just showed you that the Angular compiler built a tree, a logical view, all right? And from this logical view, the DOM is created. And DOM elements got reference to their logical view. And someone already wrote in the chat, child component is still in the view tree from Angular. And that's the correct answer, but I want all of us to be sure what's going on here. What I did right now, I removed the DOM element that was initially created from the DOM, but I didn't destroy the child component instance from the logical view, which means that the logical view is still intact. There is still a tree of objects. You can call it a virtual DOM. That's okay. Virtual DOM is just a term, but it's still there. It's still there. It's still alive. I never destroyed it. I just removed the DOM element that's associated with it. Now, like I said a minute ago, this is like an example that can teach us two important concepts. First of all, you can remove DOM elements, but it doesn't mean, I mean, Angular still works. Unless you used Angular API and you technically destroyed the component instance, the logical tree. If you didn't destroy the object in the logical tree, it's still there, it's still alive, it still holds data, which means that if you ever gonna do something like this, you're gonna end up with zombies. Instances of objects containing data being checked by the change detection algorithm. We don't want it. But the second thing that this example show us, at least for me and hopefully for you, I would say, wait a minute. I did something radical. I removed the DOM element, but I kept the component instance alive. But if I won't remove it, if I just gonna move the DOM elements in the DOM tree, am I gonna break Angular? Now here's a spoiler for you. No. You can manipulate the DOM, you can move the DOM elements wherever you want. It doesn't really matter, because the logical tree that Angular created stay intact, and each object in the logical tree hold the reference to the DOM element. You can move the DOM element around, nothing gonna happen. But enough talking. Let's build something. Let's do something a little bit more interesting. First of all, if you have any question, I think that's the wonderful time to ask it. So I'm gonna give you like a 20 seconds and drink my tea. I can hear some noises. All right. So let's take this valuable information and make something practical out of it. For this, I want to start with doing the next thing. I want to create a very, very simple, basic kind of Angular app, you can call it. We're going to hold the counter. We're going to start with 1. We're going to show this counter right here, the counter value. And then inside this div, we're gonna create another button. It's gonna increment. I'm gonna create this method. Nope is not relevant anymore. We're not gonna remove anything. We don't care about check anymore, all right? Let's keep it simple and focused. Actually, we don't need this anymore as well. And inside the increment, I'm gonna take this counter. And this counter, we're gonna add 1 to it. Let's call this ink. No, it's not relevant. The organizer here, you can mute everyone, and I'm gonna unmute myself. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the browser, and again, no surprises at all. But now let's take this very, very simple example and do like give it a twist. Logically, when I read this code as an Angular developer, everything makes sense to me totally. Let's talk about what making sense to me. The context, the context. This is the app component. Inside the app component, I've got some data. I've got data binding. I've got events. Everything lives within the same object. So everything is aware to everything. And, you know, I know exactly how the DOM gonna look like. I know exactly what gonna work because this counter is part of my component, all right? This is the same object, all right? No surprises. So let's build a directive. I'm gonna create a new directive, and I'm gonna call this directive portable. I don't want to use the word app. I just want to call it portable. Inside the directive metadata, I'm gonna give it an alias. If there's anyone here, it's not 100% sure what is export S and why do we need it and how to use it, no worries. I'm gonna explain each line of code that I'm gonna write down. Now this directive, first of all, I wanna be a good boy. I wanna be a good Angular developer. I wanna introduce some manipulation to the view, but I want to do it the right way because I just showed something which is terrible. So if I'm building a directive and I want to get a reference to my host element, I'm gonna ask for my host element. Which is element ref. right? If I want to use Angular the way I should use it, and I want to manipulate the view in any way, I'm going to use a class that was created specifically for this task. This class called the renderer. Actually, the renderer 2. Now, I want my portable directive to do some extreme manipulation. I'm going to save some data on my class. I'm going to save an element, all right? My element ref. Actually, it can be any. We'll see why in a second. I'm going to save my element. And I gonna take a reference to the window. And why do I need the window? Because currently Angular don't provide any wrapper around the window. And if you build something more complex, that simple examples, you know that at some point you need to reference the window. One of the best practices out there is to take the window, wrap it in an injection token, and then you don't feel bad about it. Actually, let's do it. Let's do it the right way. I can come here to my app. I can create a file. I can call it window token.ts. And then I can export const window ref. And it's going to be equals to injection token. I'm going to create an injection token. I'm going to give this injection token a name, or just say what it is. Reference to window, and then we're not gonna stop here. I'm going to introduce another object. Actually, I'm going to do this factory. Oh, come on, what's going on with me? Did I just forgot the syntax for create injection token? Yeah, I've got a blackout. You see, it's happened to the best people out there. Let's go to create injection token. Let's see if these documents can help us in any way. Nope. I've got a blackout, guys. I want to create an injection token. I want to provide, but I see that I don't get. All right, you know what? Let's leave it for after. Sometimes during live coding, I get a blackout, and that's totally fine. Go to my portable directory. If I get some time, I'm gonna fix it just to show you. So I want to get a reference to window. All right. Up until now, everything cool. Now I want to start populate these properties. So this element gonna be equals to my host element. The parent element, though, I'm gonna use this renderer called parent node, provided this element Angular by the book, using Angular with the right API. So I've got a parent element. I just need to initialize my window, which is, well, window. And now I can move forward. Oh, thank you. Someone already. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Totally blackout. Create injection token. New injection token. And I don't need this. And now I can pass an object. I can say this one provided in root. And I can give it a factory that's gonna return the window. And this is how you do it, like the right way. You wrap the window with an injection token. This one is a window ref. And I can I can give it a type, so I know it's window, because I don't want to touch the window directly. And now if you want to use it, and you don't want to feel bad about it, you can go to your portable directive and just inject it in the constructor using the inject. It was the window ref. I'm gonna get the window ref. The type gonna be window, all right? And now I can use this window ref, and I'm not using the window directly. Thank you for your help. It was important to me first to show you the right way. Now let's implement two methods quickly. One of them gonna be open, the other one gonna be close. And open, we're gonna do this. This element, actually I don't need this. I just need to do this. This window gonna be this window ref. Oh, actually I used same one. Well, that's fine. This window gonna be this window, open, because I want to create a completely new window. I don't need the title for it. I want it to be width, let's say of 256, and I want to give it a height of 256. So I create a new window. And now I want to take this window that I just created. And basically what I want to do, I want to take this element ref and append it to the window. Now again, I want to use Angular, so we're going to use this renderer, append child, and the parent going to be this window. The child going to be this element. All right, are we okay with this? If you haven't worked with the renderer yet, the renderer gives you some methods to manipulate the DOM without touching the DOM. I'm not touching the DOM directly. There is no DOM API here. There's the renderer and methods on the renderer. Next, let's do the hide thing. Now, when I hide it, I want to do this. This parent, actually, let's take this renderer. This renderer, append child, the parent gonna be this parent element, and I want to append this element. And then I want to take this window, it exists, and close. So let me go through this code line by line. This part is just configuration, all right? There's nothing special. Basically, I'm injecting my host element because it's a directive, and then the renderer because I want to do some DOM manipulation, and then a reference to the window, but I wrapped it with a token because I don't want to touch it directly, all right? So if you're not familiar with this technique, creating an injection token and give it a value with the factory, great practice, highly encourage it. So this part is technically just setting up. And now I'm creating a new window and I'm using the renderer and appending the element to the window. So this directive is gonna take the host element and I'm gonna put it on a different window. And then when I want to bring it back, I will take a reference to the parent element where this directive sits, and then use the renderer, append child, return it to the parent, and close the window. The reason I'm doing this crazy stuff is, first of all, to show you that Angular can actually work with the logical view even if there are two separated DOMs. But let's see if that's going to work for us. So first of all, I'm going to use my directive, which is portable. And because I use the export as, remember that I told you that I'm gonna teach you how to use it. I can take reference. So with the I can create my own variable like pref, and it's gonna point to Kaufman. Now I can create two buttons, send and return. I can use this ref. So this one, when you click it, it's gonna take the pref dot open, and this one, when you click it, I'm gonna take the pref hi. So you use the export as when you want to work with the template, take a direct reference to the instance of the directive and work with the provided method. All right. Let's explore the counter here. Everything is in place. It's super cool. I'm going to increase the number. Now I'm going to send it. And what happened? I think I did something wrong. Let's see. This, which is fine. I want to create a brand new window. So what went wrong? You create a new tab for me. I don't want a new tab. I want a new window. Let's fix it. Parent append child is not a function. Why? Parent append child is not a function. Append child is only append child. The parent element, this element, this vendor parent node, this element. Oh, yeah. This element, native element. Very, very important. All right. Host element, native element. This renderer, append child, now it should work or not. Reading parent node, undefined properties. Cannot run. This renderer. What have I done wrong? I do have this example up and running, yeah, in case that live code is gonna fail, but I do like in meetups to try and debug in real time. Cannot read properties of undefined reading parent node. So for some reason, he can do parent element. That should be fine, element. And this element should be fine because it's native element. Can you solve the issue with me? What I did wrong? There's a strong feeling that I missed something. Let's go line by line. This element is host element, native element. That's cool. The parent element, get the parent node from this element. Right? Increment. It's almost working. You just don't open up a new window for me. And I think I know why. An argument. Let's define the. Let's see. Increment, send. Yeah, we're almost there. So we are able to open up a new window. And now the parent append child is not a function. All right. Now let's see where this one is going on. This append child, this window, this element. And this element, I think that this element is the native element. It doesn't have to be a native element. Increment, send. No, parent append child is not a function. Let's use debugger to see the value. You see, he's saying, here's the problem. this renderer, this is the problematic line. We want to know what is this element. I believe now. All right, I think I got it. When we open, we say, let's do a debugger. I don't want to use the pre-made example. That's the whole fun of it. All right, now let's see what's going on here. We wanna see what is this element at this point. It is an element ref. This element is an element ref. Actually, it should work, but it's not. This window is not enough. It should be this window, but I can't go to this window specifically. I need to go to the document of this window and then to the body. I can't just append to this window. I think that was the issue. Let's see. Increment, 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 send. All right. It was close enough, but not there yet. Try to execute the pen child and node. All right, getting there, guys. Hang on. So now it's got problem with my element, which is the host element, and should be native element. So I'm gonna bring this line back, and I think we nail it. Increment, increment, increments, and yeah. Thank you for your help. So let's go back to this extreme example. So I want to show you this. We've got a logical tree, and the logical tree keeps everything in place, which means that this component got its own data binding and method that change the value and be good. So we're changing the value, everything is okay. And then we can create a completely new DOM. And as you can see here, hopefully you can see it because it's small. The number, it's still 13, which means the state is still there, the context is still there, and I can go ahead and continue working with it, although it's a completely new DOM, all right? But the logical tree is intact. Now let's try to bring it back, and here it is. We wrote it back, and then I can send it away again, hopefully, almost, all right? The resend doesn't work for us, but you get the idea. Now, this is amazing because it means that I can manipulate the DOM. I can move things inside the DOM to completely different places. But the logical tree is still there, which means that I can still work with Angular and everything works as expected. Change detection works as expected. When I read the code, it still makes sense because the increase is still there, all right? I think here it should be the same thing right away. I think it should be native element or parent element. Forget about it. And Angular still works. So what are we learning from this? First of all, that it's okay to manipulate the DOM. The problems that we're seeing right here, right now, my mistakes, types mistake. I didn't use the right syntax, but I'm gonna make it simple in a second. Second, it's okay to manipulate the DOM to create a complex UI. Angular still gonna work, gonna break Angular. And actually, every library that building some crazy dynamic UI manipulate the DOM directly without destroying Angular. Now, you might look at this code example and say, all right, Nir, so you just showed us how to manipulate DOM the right way. And you actually created something very extreme. You created a directive that create a new window and send the component, to a different DOM, and everything still work, and you were able to bring it back. And we understand that it works, and we understand that we haven't broke Angular because you did use Angular. You used the renderer, you used the host element, you did it right, it works for you. So let's finalize this with a more extreme example. Let's say I don't want Angular at all. I want to use vanilla JavaScript. I'm going to do document, get element by, and here this div, I'm going to give it an ID of a card, all right, or whatever it is, counter. And now I'm going to do get element by ID and get this counter. And for the parent, I'm not even using a constructor, yeah? And for the parent element, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this element and use parent node. Parent node, I believe. Yeah, parent node. And this window is going to be just the window. No injection tokens, no Angular whatsoever, just a directive. I don't need any of this, right? Raw vanilla JavaScript. What else? This window open, actually I can do just this. Instead of this, append child and everything, I'm just gonna go like this. This window, if it exists, go to the document, go to the body, and append with this element. And because everything is vanilla JavaScript, the syntax even become much easier for me to manage. Same here, yeah? This parent element, append child, this element, easy, no Angular, this window close, and then the questions become even more relevant. Now, I didn't use the renderer, I didn't use injection token, I didn't use the host element. Is that still gonna work? Let's give it a try. Refresh, increase, send. I broke it again. This is the most bad live coding ever. Cannot read properties of undefined, reading open. Why? Why you can't read? Why can't you just work and show this wonderful example? What was undefined? This window was undefined? Makes sense, because this window is not even, yeah, maybe just need to be window. Now everything's gonna be okay. All right. Increase, 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 send. Yes, works. Increase, 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 send. Yeah, work. Return. Work. Let's try to resend. Yes, works. It even makes it much easier for me. Let's try to summarize. First of all, you're calling this window open without initializations. Yeah, thank you. We found it. What you're seeing right here is an extreme native vanilla JavaScript DOM manipulation that didn't broke Angular to pieces. And this is the most important message that I want you to get from this talk, from this session. It's okay to manipulate the DOM. It's okay to move DOM elements to different places. Actually, it's not just okay, everyone doing this. Every major library doing this, Prime and G, Angular material. Look at the code, you're gonna find DOM manipulation. If you build something which is much more than a simple example, eventually you're gonna have to manipulate the DOM. Maybe you've got a third-party JavaScript library, simple one, a tooltip that you wanna use, and you don't want to use the Angular version and wrap it, all right? That's what I'm trying to say. Remember the most important slides. There is the logical view, there is the DOM. You can manipulate the DOM. If you haven't broke the logical view, everything should work as expected. So I see there's a question. The second method is correct to use it, or we need to be more familiar with the first one. The second method, I believe you're talking about this, like vanilla raw JavaScript. So you don't need to be familiar with anything, it's plain JavaScript. You just need to take in mind one thing. Once you write a code like this, it means that your app need to be run inside the browser. Now, to be honest, I'm working with Angular since 2010. I built I had the opportunity to build maybe hundreds of Angular apps in my career. The promise of running Angular on different platforms didn't really work out, because most of the time we're building Angular for the browser, so I don't care using raw vanilla JavaScript. About testing, if you want to test it, yeah, you need to have some kind of DOM available. And I don't see it a huge problem, because these days a lot of my tests I'm using Cypress, so anyway I'm testing DOM. But yes, you can use it. You don't need to get familiar with the official API. Actually, the official API is missing. We don't get any wrapper for window, for example. We need to create it. And even if we do get a wrapper for window, that's nice. We don't get a wrapper for any DOM manipulate. We don't get any wrappers to calculate the rectangular size. In time, we're going to have to inject the element ref and use the native element. And I'll send you a link to this example so you can play with it and explore it. But look at the screen, guys. Vanilla native DOM manipulation on the right side, 100% Angular with data binding and events and methods that should trigger change detection, and it works. All right. So let me bring back the slides with all the links near that live. And I'll start by saying thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that this crazy session with all the bugs in between, which is the fun of it, was useful. Most important, I hope that I was able to open your mind a little bit. And even if it was just a fraction of Angular, remember one thing. There is no HTML in Angular. No HTML in Angular. Angular creates its own hierarchy. Angular keeps the context. You can manipulate the DOM. You should manipulate the DOM, because that's the only way to build complex stuff. You just need to be aware and learn how it works. There is one last question, I think. If I know what I'm doing to manipulate the DOM directly, example, I don't want to run change detection in Zone.js hook wrap. If I want to sync DOM in Angular, I can just Angular API to update. It is okay, right? Yes, it is okay. Again, the most important thing that you learned today is that there is the DOM and there is Angular logical tree. Go ahead and deep your knowledge about it. You can move and play with the DOM. That's fine. We just created a different DOM. You won't break Angular ever, never. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid because it's considered to be a bad practice. Learn it, play with it, and you can build a very complex dynamic UI with vanilla JavaScript once you know the benefits, the pros and cons. Now our time is over. Yeah, Alex, it was intense.
Yeah, thank you for being with us and sharing this whole information with us. Of course, the demo gods were with us and tried to push us back, but you got it.
We're gonna fight them back.
Yeah, yeah, and I really liked the presentation. I was, meantime, I was looking on your Twitter profile, and I seen that you shared something about Flutter. Do you work with Flutter as well?
Yes, I really like Flutter. I think Flutter is a very, very good example of the multi-platform dream. Mm-hmm. Because these days there is a lot of misinformation, like React Native. You can't really reuse React component in React Native because it's a different kind of tags. You can't really reuse web components in native because you need some kind of a bridge or a translator. And Flutter, I like it because in the latest release, you don't need to change any kind of code, and the exact same code that build your UI gonna run natively on, you name it, Linux, Windows, macOS, Android, iPhone. Did I forget something? Probably TVs.
The next things that will be invented. Yeah, maybe next meetup we'll have you as a guest with something about Flutter.
I'd be more than happy.
Of course, keep in mind that we have also some conferences, the October one and in March, and we'll be thrilled to have you as speaker at one of them. So let's
come over. Yeah.
Let's keep in touch. So I will send you the link for the conference, and you can send some proposals.
Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody, thank you for being with us this evening and taking this time to learn. Of course, thank you, EPAM, for hosting us this evening. Yeah, I hope we had a great time together. I will post the recording. Of course, I will try to see if some things will need to be clipped or something like that. And I will post the video for later. Thank you very much and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, Alex. Thank you very much.
Bye.